way up north,
north to Alaska,
way up north,
north to Alaska,
north to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. Big Sam left Seattle in the year of '92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too. They crossed the Yukon River and found the Bonanza Gold below that old white mountain, just a little southeast of Nome. Sam crossed the majestic mountains to the valleys far below. He talked to his team of...
Underneath. If you are scared of heights, please close your eyes. That's what Cal and I do up here.
Don't take me.
I'm getting it.
I'm a lot more interested in the plants than I am the python. I don't know what these are though. I really want to know what these are. With the little pine cone.
gin pole. Eventually, the buckets would catch, swivel, dump their load, then come coasting back down in situ, bang into these logs here and be reset for the next load. All winter long. And therefore, those piles would get really big. So they would erect new gin poles and start new piles if they needed to for more room. By the end of the winters, there were piles of gold ore everywhere. And as that warm summer weather arrived, they would thaw each one of those piles back out again so they could wash all the gold from them with their sluice boxes. So up until about 1920, that's what these outfits around here typically look like. And notwithstanding their efforts at safety, because in the summer times they seal these shafts off to try to keep it cool down there, but a lot of times they slough off and cave in anyway, or more typically, because the tunnels were below the water table, they'd often fill up with water and then freeze solid. They'd have to start all over again. It wasn't very efficient. Meanwhile, a giant trench, 10 feet wide by 10 feet deep, largely by hand, for 90 miles. This giant trench became known as the famous Davison Ditch, and it wound its way through the tops of those hills over there just as far as you could see. The Davison Ditch served to divert the Chattanooga River, and thereby provided all those thousands of gallons of water necessary for them. And it was a gravity-fed system. So as they would pipe that water downhill, they would use pipes that got smaller and smaller and smaller, such that by the time the water got down here to ground level and was shot from these 3-inch hydraulic giants or water cannons, there was an incredible amount of pressure built up behind these cannons, to the tune of about 150 pounds per square inch. That's right, one of these days I'm going to have this thing functional online. I'd be able to douse every single one of you with this thing right here. Cool everybody off real good. Knock you over the backside of that hill over there with it too. Amazing amount of pressure built up behind these things. They would use these water cannons to absolutely blast away all of the overburden. If you turn your attention to the distant horizon, that tree line way over there, that is the original elevation of this very valley that we're sitting in right now. They cleared away 150 feet of overburden. But no, if they hadn't done that, imagine right now we'd be sitting another 150 feet higher up in the air. That was all permafrost, frozen, organic, muck. They had to thaw it out first and then use the water cannons to blast it out of the way, flushed it all downstream. The goal, of course, was to expose all this gold-bearing gravel here. And it was frozen now, too. And at that point, the water cannons were no longer effective against that frozen rock. They didn't want to blast the gold away with it. That's where these thaw points came into these pipes here. Thousands of these thaw points were set up at a big matrix, 16-foot intervals. Each man responsible for between 20 to 30 of these thaw points, pounding them into the ground just an inch or two at a time. Anybody here ever experienced the joy of pounding fence posts in the ground before? Give you a sense of what that was like and the monotony of it. Now, what she's going to be describing about this machinery. Yukon, good morning. I've got a great Beaver Creek train here. Take it away.
Thank you, Tim. Well, howdy.
Howdy.
Darn good to have you here in camp with us today. I am Yukon Yanda. I started mining for gold here in the interior of Alaska back in 1978 and still at it. It is a real pleasure to be able to share with you this camp's history and that of Gold Dredge 8. She was built in 1927 at the Bethlehem Steel Shipyard. Everything that they manufactured in parts. They then put on the railroad and railed that out to San Francisco. Once there, they assembled her in San Francisco Bay, then took her completely apart, loaded all the parts that made up this vessel onto steamships and barged her up to Seward, Alaska. Once in Seward, they transferred that entire load over to the Alaska Railroad, and it took 114 flat cars to move all the parts that made up this dredge by rail from Seward up to Fairbanks. Once in Fairbanks, they did change the load out just one more time, and that was over to the Tanana Valley Railroad, like the replica that you're riding on now, and then railed her out here to Fox. The FE company knew from the core drilling logs that Tim told you about exactly where the starting point would be for this dredge. They sent a crew of men out from town, and those guys went to work immediately. They dug a huge pit all the way down to bedrock. When that was completed, they reassembled her that last time, then opened up the gates of that Davidson ditch, just flooded that pit with water. She took float, and by late August 1920, 28th, she was ready to dig dirt. These dredges did three very simple things. They chewed up gold-bearing gravel, they swallowed gold, and they spit out rocks. There's going to be videos on your screens in just a bit, but I'm going to start with this long iron arm behind me. It's called the digging arm or the digging ladder, and it worked much like a chainsaw. You know how a chainsaw cuts down into wood. This worked in reverse. It cut up from the bedrock through the gravel. The line of buckets that you see on top, when this was in full operation, there were 64 buckets that completely encompassed that digging arm. They moved at a rate of 22 buckets a minute, and when each were filled, carried 6 cubic feet of gold-bearing gravel. When the bucket line would get up to the top of the digging arm, each bucket would dump its load into what's called a hopper. That's shaped like a chute, and above that area was a series of spray bars so they could efficiently use the water to move that gravel out of the hopper and then into the trommel. Now, if you haven't seen a trommel before, I'm pretty sure you've seen the inside tub of your washing machine. Picture that out laying on its side and constantly rotating in a flow of water. That is kind of what it looks like, but the one inside here is huge. 36 feet long, 6 feet in diameter, tilted towards the back of the dredge. The body of it is made out of 1/2-inch thick steel with a variety of different size holes that they cut into it. Down the center is a spray bar, and that is what delivered that 9,000 gallons of water a minute to process the ore coming in off the bucket line. In the rotation of the trommel and the flow of that pay, the first thing that sized out was the larger, coarser gravels. They'd work their way down to that tilted end, then were automatically fed onto a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt is housed in what is called the stacking arm. That you can see at the far end of the dredge sticking up towards the sky.
If it happened too fast for you, don't worry, we're going to see him again, because he's going to take a lap and he'll set back down out there. And while he's on his way, we want to emphasize again that these bush pilots are not just part of the past up here. They're very critical in the present, too. Because little villages get surrounded by snow and ice in the wintertime, and the only way in or out is a plane just like that on skis. A friend of ours told us years back about that call from the hospital in December. This is a Super Cub pilot now. They told a young lady was going into labor in one of those villages. So he flew out there 2 hours, got 2 people into the plane, 2 hours back to Fairbanks. If he can show you a little bit of a slick turn, he will. That kind of half turn, half dive that they use to land on very small lakes surrounded by tall trees. When you can't come in gradually, sometimes you just got to corkscrew it right down, as he did there. And then you'll see he'll make his way back down to the surface. Again, it's some kind of tricky winds today. You know, one puts it a little, but this isn't gymnastics. If you can walk away from it, it's a 10. Right? So no deductions from us. And there's our friend Steve Panatzer back on the Cheetah over there. Now, 1 out of every 78 Alaskans is a licensed pilot, and we're going to get to meet this one via the wheelhouse with our boat pilot. So I'm going to get out of the way and we'll listen into the radio chat here.
Discovery 3 calling 2 for Alpha. Steve, thanks for coming down. Beautiful afternoon. Looks like we got some wind this afternoon. How's the air up there?
Oh, beautiful afternoon for flying. A little bit of breeze, but nice day.
Absolutely. Well, watching that quick takeoff and really impressive landing, it's obvious you have a lot of experience in these small airplanes. And I guess that comes from necessity. You grew up in rural Alaska in a place that had no roads, so you were completely reliant on the airplanes for transportation. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your background and where you grew up?
aircraft since I was a teenager, but my dad was actually a pilot instructor. Also had sled dogs out on the Yukon for transportation. Tried my hand at the Iditarod race in 1980. Then in 91, I moved to Fairbanks, became an aircraft mechanic, but now I work on these aircraft full-time when I'm not flying them.
Co-founder of the Kennel, veteran of the Iditarod, and the winner of the 1988 Yukon Quest, David Monson. Good to see you over there.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trailbreaker Kennel, and as you can see, we're having a glorious day on the banks of the Chena River. It's such a beautiful river in the summertime, and in the wintertime, it turns into a super highway of ice that'll take us all the way to Nome. So it's a great place to live, but I'll tell you what, it's even more of a wonderful place because our job description says, get up in the morning and play with pups. That makes every day a great day.
Well, I should say, and you never have cold hands either. Now, you know, we were talking about this relationship that created the unlikely dominant pairing of Susan and Granite, and, you know, I mean, this kennel just blew everybody away in the 1980s. You guys were winning practically everything. So how early in the life of a little dog do you start that relationship in order to make it work so well?
Well, you know, we started right away because we want to make sure that bond has been developed since the day they're born. So the way we do it is what you're seeing with Laura right now. We'll pick up each pup every day and hold them gently in our hands. And by doing that, they start associating a feeling of comfort and security with us. So by the time they can run around a little bit like they're doing here, they already know us, they trust us, and they want to follow us on adventures. And that gives us the perfect opportunity to help them develop their self-confidence. And we do that by challenging them to make it over the obstacles. We'll see what the obstacle is today. It's making it across the log. Well, if they can't do it, Laura's going to give them a little bit of hand. But when they do make it, then they get a lot of praise on the other side. And they learn something from that. And basically what they're learning is that we're not asking them to do anything impossible, but also that we'll always be there to help them if the going gets tough. And that pays big dividends when you're on the trail together with them later on in life.
Yeah, I think it'll be easier to get under the log when they're not quite so bulky. You're really feeding this bunch.
Yeah, they got off a cruise ship just a few days ago.
Touche. Now, of course, you know better than just about anybody that it's not going to be long before these puppies have complete command of the yard and nothing, you know, the logs, rocks, docks, boats, none of that's going to be a challenge anymore. Well before they're big enough to put in a harness. So, how are you going to keep them from getting bored, I guess?
Well, you know, we do everything we can, and I think what we want for the puppies is what any parent would want, and that is for every success they have to be a stepping stone or a building block towards their next success. So after they bond with us, develop self-confidence, feel comfortable running around here, that's when it's time for us to introduce them to their mentors. The dogs will teach them what it means to be a great sled dog. And of course, who are those? They're the older dogs in our kennel, especially the ones that have retired from active racing, because not only are they perfectly trained and know what they're doing, but also they have the time to teach the little guys, and they do it by their example. So the first way we introduce to come from deep within each dog. It's called the instinct to pull. And that's what you're seeing right now. And that, of course, the love, joy, and desire each one of these dogs have. But as you can see,
They're wanting to go.
Whether it's summer or winter, you better be getting your dog to find out or they'll let down the trail before you want to go. So I'm going to take off. I have a radio, so I can give you a call from the other side. Let's have a
everybody leans in, they get quiet, pick up speed, and then goes in. So keep looking to the left. If you see it, you're real quick. It's going to move you there and come from our right to our left, between the cabins, behind the dog pit. These are monitors of the video. And you see the lead dogs right there, set the pace. Everybody falls in behind. The rest of the dogs back here freaking out. Pick me up, but don't worry, because every dog exercises every day at trail breaking. They all get a turn. That's why they're so healthy and why they live so long. Granted, lived to be 17 and a half. They're on over 41,000 miles in this career. And keep looking to the left still, in between those two cabins, but focus on that trail farther away from us in the sun at the base of the tall spruce trees. Any second now.
Here we are coming up the trees on the far side of the lake. And really amazing how well the younger dogs learn from the older dogs because
Hike or all right, gets them started, then to stop them, you say, whoa, and you just kind of break. Because they don't like that command very much. As you're going to see when they get back. Stopping is not what these dogs love. Watch that same trail, opposite way now. On the monitor again if that's easy, and we'll listen in for a call back.
here we are heading home, and it's a beautiful group of dogs today that understand what it means to be a marathon runner. And of course what that means is that every dog is now using these therapies that they take as leaps of time. And because the finish line has been tight for 40 times, we can there's a great team enough anymore when I look at it.
The next place is pat him on the head, get your questions answered. There's a beautiful bronze statue of a great lead dog granite there too. So we are not done with dogs yet. And here comes the team. I hope that the brakes are working, so rounding up the rear. Okay, nicely done, David. Got a great run. Would have had meat for food, hides for clothing and shelter, gut, bone, sinew, antler, all of it. Nothing would be cast aside. Now what you see in the pen over here is, of course, the domesticated Rangifer tarandus, same genus and species as wild caribou. These are reindeer, but in all the ways that matter, they're virtually indistinguishable from their wild cousins, other than being a little smaller. The whole species gets that nice dark brown coat for the summer. See how they blend in with the shadows. In the winter, though, when the world turns white, so does this species. They grow in a thick white coat. So they always have natural camouflage, and every strand of hair is hollow. There's air trapped inside, which makes them naturally buoyant and also provides their insulation. That's why they don't freeze. Those really big feet are helpful too. Another evolutionary trait, so they can swim, keep their footing on unstable ground like snow or spongy tundra. And when their food is buried in the winter, they can shovel down through several layers of snow to get to the moss and lichen underneath. Both male and female grow antlers too. This is the only type of deer where that happens, except for one that's kind of in the back. See, the velvet is a layer of skin that protects the antler growing in underneath, but as they get closer to the rut, the further we move on into fall, they'll get the urge to rub it off. And the one, unfortunately, that's the most surrounded by the others has actually begun to do that. it looks like an injury, but they think it's like an itchy old scab that they just scrape off. Their antlers will look like bone for a while, and then after they reproduce, there's that one headed back toward the gate there that I was talking about. After they reproduce, antlers start falling off. Generations of the family living together. Everybody needs their own team for the trap line. That could be 100 dogs in the kennel, and every dog eats one salmon every day. Times 5 or 6 months of winter, you see why you need to be able to catch your full and fair share with one of these fish wheels in our very carefully managed fisheries. And we're going to learn more about the processing now from Hannah, who is over to the left. Nanda Donja, my friend.
Nanda Donja. Hello, everyone. Like JR said, my name is Hannah. I'm Athabascan, born and raised in Fairbanks. And my family, they come from the village of Beatatai, which is along the Chandelin River.
Okay, and we're going to learn about processing and the activity at Fish Camp in a bit, but why don't we start maybe with you telling us what the different structures are around here?
For sure. So the fish camps that you see right here is what you typically see along the Yukon or Tanana River during the summer months. Families will travel 30 miles away from their village to their respective fish camps. And the centerpiece of fish camp is the fish wheel. My dad, he owns a fish wheel, but it's down along the Tanana. Now, as you notice, the fish wheel is an efficient fish catcher machine that will provide enough salmon for the families and the dogs during the winter months. But on shore, you'll find some canvas wall tents, and those are what we would stay in during fish camp. And then right next to me are the air drying grounds. This is where we hang the salmon before it goes into the smokehouse. And the smokehouse is a large structure you see right behind me. And the smokehouse is the key to turning the salmon into a dehydrated, fully preserved food source. Then right next to the smokehouse is going to be the cache. And the reason why the cache is on stilts is so it can be away from any of the pesky animals.
Yeah, I kind of like those bears that want to wander in here and get at everything, which I know is not why you work so hard, obviously, to get the salmon put up. And on that subject now, let's go back to the table. What is this that you showed us before?
So like I said before, this is a chum salmon.
I'd like to welcome everyone today to the Senior Indian Village. My name is Gavin. I'm with Athabascan as well as a Nubia Eskimo, and I was born and raised right here in Fairbanks. Then most of my family on my dad's side comes from a small village of Beaver, and it's just north of us along the Yukon River. This fall, actually in just a couple of days, I'm going to be a senior in high school. I'm currently accumulating hours to put towards my private pilot's license, and hopefully also going into some sort of wildlife photography. Thanks.
And good afternoon, everybody. My name is Grace. I'm Athabascan Indian, and I was born right here in Fairbanks. My mother's family is from a village called Indiana. One of my great-great-great-great-grandpa was from Thomas. I am a sophomore this year at Westside High School, and I am playing varsity volleyball.
Now, any of the floral designs that you see on any of these garments would all have their own symbolic meanings. Over here on the maiden's dress, these flowers at the bottom are a couple of flowers you would commonly find in the woman's home village. On this dress, we have 2 sets of the bluebells, and these 3 right here are the Alaska state flower called the forget-me-nots. But over here on the chief's coat, these flowers all represent animal tracks. An Athabascan woman would sew these onto a man's coat, and these would hopefully bring him good luck in the future while he's out shopping for more animals. Both of these garments are trimmed all the way around completely in beaver. And these big buttons over here on the chief's coat, these buttons are made from the cross sections from one of those big moose antlers just cut into slices. While the buttons over here on the maiden's dress, these ones are smaller because they're made from the cross sections from a caribou's antler. And you can see one of those antlers in between the 2 pelts and the middle one there. Excuse me, that was the moose. The one closest to the cabin is the caribou. Now obviously these 2 garments are not day-to-day wear. Like I said, these ones are more ceremonial, only for special occasions. Something that we wear very frequently was that garment you saw Grace wearing before she went in the cabin called a kaspa. That's K-U-S-P-U-K. The word kaspa translates into summer parka or working parka. But speaking of parkas, I really think you all are gonna like this next piece. Today, Grace is wearing an Athabascan Yukon-style women's winter parka. Now this parka is completely traditional, except for that big zipper running down the middle. That's just there so that she can get it on and off quickly on these hot summer days. But originally this parka would be completely sewn together in one pullover style. The main body of the parka is made from beaver. Now any leftover pieces from that ruff are made into decorative pieces like these closest to her hands, which would be Wolverine tipped with timber wolf. Grace would put those on her parka just to show off that her man was a very skilled trapper and caught that tricky Wolverine. So let's give it up for our very, very beautiful model today.
I took a few. Thank you. You're welcome. Absolutely.
It's moving over about 8 o'clock. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Over there, yeah.
Look at those paws. Alright. We'll see what he does. Heard something.
He did that earlier. Sure.
Looks like he's looking at something on the ground moving.
Cheese pizza. Yeah. If they hear him chirping, their ears will perk up. You know, 2,000 calories, hard to come by. Mm-hmm. On rare occasions, get to see him digging them up and catching them.
Oh, is there goats? Wait, that's the bear?
Yeah.
And there's a caribou out there somewhere too? Oh, he picked up his head. Yeah.
It's moving on.
You need to come our way, fella.
Yeah, the caribou is making its way toward. It's just behind this little hill. He keeps looking over to it. But, oh, here we go. Let's see.
You wanna see? Yeah, you wanna see? Sorry.
It looks so
eating
small.
blueberries.
Eating blueberries.
Yeah, right. Then you're like, oh.
Yeah, these are real low bush blueberries.
I don't see the camera.
There's some folks on from Juneau. That's one thing that I was like, oh my gosh, the blueberry plants up here, they're tall as me down there in the southeast. But blueberries up here are real low to the ground. Wow. Let's try this.
He's moving.
You seeing it?
That you have to put it in, yeah. If we were to wear your glasses.
And they don't have opposable thumbs like you and I, so you just pick some with their muzzle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just go through and eat the whole plant almost. Well, showing his best side. Bare butt. See how blonde, yeah. Light color.
You want to come closer?
Where's the camera?
I can't see the camera. Thank you, my dear. I did.
Where's the caribou?
Oh, it's to the left of it.
Yeah, all the way there.
If you haven't found the zoom out, I'll show you where we are.
So, blackটা এখানে শেষ হয়েছে সেখান থেকে আসতে থাকো এদিকে তখন দেখবে একটা নড়াচড়া
Where's the
Still
caribou
see the
in relation to the...
The caribou was over to the left.
Yeah, I did. For
But
like
it may not go.
No, it's there.
Oh, there it is.
See those red bushes he's eating right in? That's what the blueberries look like.
Here, Mom.
He's eating the
Mom,
blueberries.
need to take this. I thought. Just take.
এই যে কালোটার
Mom, if you find the bear and just go left, you'll see it. Find the bear and then just move left, pan left.
Oh, look at the bear. He's
left.
Is that caribou stupid or what? You know?
Yeah.
Just go left.
I did.
See the black dirt?
Alright. You know, we're just about probably a couple miles from where we're going to turn around.
Oh, I see. There he is. He blends
It
right
looks like he's moving his way up toward us. And you never can tell what they're going to do. But
You think the caribou is making his way over to him?
yeah, I see the caribou. Yeah, you can see it. You can see the caribou now.
You have to push it.
This is a cow or a calf. This might be a calf. Yeah, it's a calf
Oh,
on the
stupid.
screens.
Yeah, not smart.
Adult caribou don't have to really worry about. The healthy adult caribou doesn't have to worry. That caribou sees that bear. Probably noticed. Let's see. We're in relation. The bear is eating. That's still quite a ways away.
Maybe the caribou thinks he can outrun it.
They can. Yeah, adult, healthy caribou don't have to really worry about.
Well, the way that bear was lumbering, probably.
Nice. Alright. Let's see here. What's the bear doing? There it is.
He's just kind of eating.
Eating. They're in a physical state right now. It's a feeding frenzy, basically. It's got a biological name. It's called hyperphagia. And they will eat nonstop. They've got a long winter ahead, so when the bears are out, they have to, something happened here. Well, I'll take that as a cue. They have to because they gotta fatten up for the winter. What we'll do is we'll continue on. We're closer, we're kind of close. We'll see what we can see. We'll be back here very shortly, and we'll see if that bear still, it might be making its way.
Ooh.
Cheese pizza.
called a nursery?
A nursery band, B-A-N-D. They're separated into nursery bands and bachelor bands, made up of the ewes and lambs for the nursery band. There's a small one, that's this year's lamb. There's one lamb in that group, maybe two. That little one bedded up, might be another lamb. Check my mirrors here, okay. And the bachelors, the rams, will stay together in a group. And so this looks to be like a nursery band. There's about 2,000, 2,500 here in the park of tall sheep. And they're up there getting the last of the summer grazing. They live up there year round, and they need them for protection. The snow doesn't fall very deep. We only get about 80 inches of snow here. So 80. That's it.
Way up north to Alaska. Way up north to Alaska. North to Alaska. Go north, the rush is on. North to Alaska. Go north, the rush is on. Big Sam left Seattle in the year of '92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too. They crossed the Yukon River and found the Bonanza Gold below that old white mountain, just a little southeast of Nome. Sam crossed the majestic mountains to the valleys far below. He talked to his team of huskies as he mushed on through the snow, with the northern lights a-running wild in the land of the midnight sun. Yes, Sam McCord was a mighty man in the year of 1901, where the river is winding, big nuggets they're finding. North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. Way up way up north. North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. George turned to Sam with his gold in his hand. Said, Sam, you're looking at a lonely, lonely man. I'd trade all the gold that's buried in this land for one small band of gold to place on sweet little Jenny's hand. 'Cause a man needs a woman to love him all the time. Remember, Sam, a true love is so hard to find. I'd build for my Jenny a honeymoon home below that old white mountain, just a little southeast of Nome, where the river is winding, big nuggets they're finding. North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. Way up north, way up north, way up.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be in the great outdoors. here.